Canada's Economic Action Plan is keeping our economy strong.
For the last 4 years, the government has been running ads like this one, spelling out the virtues of its Economic Action Plan.
To find out about Government of Canada programs and other opportunities that can help you,
Conservatives have spent more than $100 million taxpayer dollars on the ads, and along the way, conducted polls to see if Canadians were hearing the message. The polls themselves cost taxpayers nearly $400,000 and showed that very few Canadians took any action as a result of the ads. Rather than pull the ads, though, the government pulled the poll questions. The latest poll dropped questions on the ads and questions about government performance.
It's a sign of a bunker mentality, a government that doesn't like the hard truth, and so it tries to either eliminate that truth or camouflage it in some way.
But the government insists that isn't the case. In a statement, a spokesperson told Global News in part that the polls are changed periodically in order to streamline data collection to questions most useful in assessing a campaign's objectives, notably recall, recognition, and message retention. Robert Murray is Vice President of Research with the Frontier Centre for Public Policy. He says when the ads were introduced, they served a purpose, but now they're a waste.
Really what it's become is a propaganda tool.
Murray says poll questions on the ads showed Canadians could see that, so he's not surprised they were dropped.
A message from the Government of Canada.
Now the Conservatives will continue to send their message without any knowledge of whether it's being received. Bashi Kapelos, Global News, Ottawa.
Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We're talking about the action plan that has not created any jobs but has wasted hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's kind of nice they got the polling data to show that nobody's watching, and they chose to ignore the polling data.
Yes, of course, change the form when you're not getting the data you want back. Of course, that's why we have Radio Free.
That's right, because we'll talk about it all till we're blue in the face.
You're tuned in to the independent media that just won't stop. And we are very happy. We're talking about temporary foreign workers.
Yeah, apparently there's a bit of an issue with that. McDonald's is, paying them more than actual Canadians.
Yes, and
there was an intercepted phone call with the CEO of McDonald's, and he had a few things to say about it. Check out this report.
He's the top boss of McDonald's Canada, CEO John Betts, clearly angry and sarcastic on the phone over the fallout from worker complaints that McDonald's favors foreigners over Canadians. He tells franchisees the corporation was backed into a corner by the public outcry and the government investigation.
This has been an attack on our brand. This has been an attack on our system. This is an attack on our people. It's bullshit, okay? I used those words when I described my conversation with the minister last week. He gets it.
McDonald's volunteered to put its recruitment of foreign workers on hold briefly, he says, to preempt the government from shutting it down completely. He also admits rules were being broken. Franchisees on the call were focused on one thing, though. When could they get foreign workers coming in again? Betts told them Employment Minister Jason Kenney's on side to help McDonald's get back to business with the program as quickly as possible.
I think the relationship we built with the minister here, I think, is a politically astute one for us to be taking because, they're feeling the heat big time before this story even, broke. And now it's bigger and bigger. And they need to see us as partners in this, as a brand that can help them make some progress in this, and at the same time give us an opportunity to clean ourselves up.
Perhaps as important as what was said on that call is what wasn't. No mention by the CEO of McDonald's making it a priority to hire Canadians, which is what the government says is the most important rule for companies to abide by.
It's unprecedented government action, served up as fast as the food at the restaurants in question.
I think that our actions on this demonstrate how serious we are about enforcement, about protecting the rules and the integrity of the program.
It's been alleged that some fast food restaurants are hiring temporary foreign workers over Canadians, abusing a program meant to ease labor shortages.
We mean what we say about the obligation actively to search
for Canadians first.
And with a report from the C.D. Howe Institute linking foreign workers to unemployment rates in Canada, the minister in charge has simply banned temporary foreign workers from being employed in the food service industry. 88% of foreign temporary workers are employed in Western Canada, where the job cup runneth over. Temporary foreign workers have been allowed to fill positions Canadians don't want, particularly in food service. Without them, the service suffers. There are nearly 45,000 foreign temporary workers in Canada, but less than 10 years ago, there were fewer than 4,500. That's a 900% increase. Recently, Ottawa has begun charging for applications, and those numbers are coming down. But now,
we're going to be put in a situation that there will be thousands of migrant workers and for the next little while who won't have work, right, because of invalid LMOs. So we're going to be put in a position where people are going to be forced to return to their home countries.
There is opposition to the move even within the Conservative ranks. Alberta feels it's unfair to freeze an entire sector because there are problems with a few players. And Minister Kenney's response to the McDonald's situation is a knee-jerk overreaction.
This problem is not just about fast food or about the hospitality industry. We know of welders, we know of miners, we know of people working in the oil sands. From coast to coast to coast, this is a problem right across the board.
Jennifer Tron, Global News, Toronto.
So I guess that's part of the action plan? I mean, come on, man. Temporary foreign workers, probably the very biggest problem that we have in society or in Canadian society in the jobs today.
Of course, the first thing our government does is come out and ban temporary foreign workers from fast food. Of course, they're not saying anything about them working on the pipeline or in mines or in
agriculture.
No.
Right here in the Okanagan, we have temporary foreign workers that are brought in to pick our apples because they've set the prices that they're buying the agricultural products from so low, farmers can't afford to support decent workers.
Of course, I guess it's because people in the mines aren't complaining and making noise about it, unlike people in the fast food industry.
And remember, some of the foreign mines that are being operated in British Columbia pay union employees $12 an hour.
However, that's the economic times we live in, and I guess that's the fiscal responsibility that our Conservative government talked about when they got elected.
Yes, yes. Transparency and fiscal responsibility, two words that they've ignored abjectly as the Conservatives continue their dictatorial reign.
And of course, another thing they're doing, they're ignoring our veterans.
Ah, yes. Throwing veterans under trucks is a regular thing. Remember, the Conservatives said, we have no moral responsibility to take care of veterans.
However, they did manage to get a really good political opportunity in last week.
And check this out.
Hours before the National Day of Honor, soldiers are making sure the event comes together with military precision. But critics contend the planning has been less than perfect, calling it a partisan publicity stunt.
I think it's all about politics.
Retired Colonel Pat Stogren served in Afghanistan and as the Veterans Ombudsman. And while he agrees with the honor, he worries pomp and circumstance is taking the place of funds and services.
Take this gesture in the context of them eliminating 8 district offices within Veteran Affairs and the level of callousness that Minister Fantino has displayed towards the veterans.
One highlight of the ceremony is expected to be the handing over of the last Canadian flag that flew at the base in Afghanistan. This week, soldiers ran it from CFB Trenton to Ottawa. The plan was to hand it to the Prime Minister and not the Governor-General, who is Canada's Commander-in-Chief. But after hearing criticism, organizers changed the program, allowing David Johnston to accept the flag instead. Veterans do appreciate the celebration of the sacrifice, but some worry it's just a bunch of lip service.
What happens on May 10th? When all the bleachers and flags are put away, what do we do then to continue the care for the families and all of those that have served, not just this generation of veterans, but all veterans?
Oh, what do you think?
Well, it's nice that they're honoring our Afghanistan vets. However, maybe they should stop closing Veterans Affairs offices.
Far be it from us to point out logical solutions, which apparently they are totally adverse to.
Well, you know, it's all about the election next year anyway.
Yes, yes, and the election Economics, vitally important. They don't talk about fractional reserve lending, fiat currency, or indentured servitude.
But they are teaching kids about how to get into debt.
Check this out.
My kids have this way of talking to me about money. It's usually, hey, Dad, how about some money?
A funny anecdote from the Minister of State for Finance to underscore a serious issue in Canada. Concerned about financial literacy among youth, the government is naming Jane Rooney the country's first financial literacy leader. Students across the country prepared projects for Talk with Your Kids About Money Day. At this Ottawa school, they explored a wide range of money matters, from how much it costs to be a ballerina to how much to save for prom. Learning hard lessons from her sister's experience, Alexandria Nolan figured out she needs to save $200 a year to pay for prom.
The average prom for a girl would be around $940 to around $1,500. It can be very expensive.
Those are the kinds of lessons the government wants adults to learn. For years, experts have told us that we have to get our debt under control, but few are listening. Statistics show by the end of 2014, the average Canadian will owe nearly $29,000 in non-mortgage debt, like lines of credit, credit cards, and car loans. So the feds hope by starting early, they can change the trend.
Financial literacy is an important issue for all Canadians. It's never too early to begin the discussion and to have these conversations.
A lesson these young minds have clearly learned.
We think that learning now this early, we can teach what we learned in grade 7 with our kids in the future.
A rare sign of maturity that will serve her well as an adult. Mike Lecouture, Global News, Ottawa.
So they're not really teaching the kids anything at all.
At all. When you take a look at, I got this interesting New York Times book of facts that has written down the economy, about all these things, these ways that they analyze the economy. They never discuss the fact that banks make money up out of nowhere, and the poverty that we see around us and our lack of health care is because banks want to make up money for weapons and not for us.
Yeah, but once again, it's all about the election, you know. They got to show that they're, you know, the firm hand on the tiller of the country's economy.
They have a firm hand somewhere, and also their cranium in small, dark, airless places.
Of course, Mr. Harper is not the only one going around politicking. He's also enlisting his wife.
Yes, say it's not so. Check this out.
Harper. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that kind introduction and for that very warm welcome. I never thought I would say this, but I'm delighted to welcome you to the International Cat Video Festival.
According to StatsCan, Indigenous women and girls are 7 times more likely to be murdered than non-Indigenous women. So I decided to attend the event to ask the Prime Minister's wife a question. For the record, I am a cat owner and a cat lover.
Mrs. Harper, raising awareness about cat welfare is a good look for your husband's upcoming campaign strategy. Don't you think supporting an inquiry to missing and murdered Indigenous women in this country would be a better look?
We're raising money for animals tonight. If you'd like to donate to animals, we'd love to take your money. We'd love to take your money. Woo! That's a great cause, but that's another night. Tonight we're here for homeless cats. So because you're here,
I have a ticket to be in that theater.
Access to life-saving care. So thank you again for being here.
So, of course, our apologies to cat lovers everywhere.
But, you know, I would think the missing and murdered Aboriginal women are a slightly more important subject to be talking about.
And coming up in here, right here at Radio Free Canada, we're going to talk about the fact that the RCMP were so shocked at the huge numbers of missing and murdered women right here in Canada. Of course, proving our point that they don't investigate crime, they do get paychecks.
Of course, the native population knew about it for years and years, for decades.
Yes, but cats.
Yeah.
That's important. Cats are totally important, especially creeped out cats that are sitting in Prime Minister's laps. Far be it from me, Darren Howard, to point that out.
Well, Laura Harper at least is making a public appearance, at least to satisfy cat lovers everywhere.
He's Robert Nisbet.
He's Darren Howard.
We're going to be back, okay? Thanks for tuning in. And make sure you do your research. Don't take our word for it. You could use a brain cell too.